Welcome. Welcome. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome to Practitioner Training Tuesday. It's one of my favorite days of the week. Oops, I'm going to let somebody in I got somebody in the waiting room. So I'm bringing you in now, and I don't want to accidentally hit the wrong button. Welcome. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Welcome to Practitioner Training Tuesday. It's so great to see you here. Hey, Charisse. Nice to see you back. Happy New Year. Hi. You're one of my favorite regulars, Charisse. I love it. And I sent you an email. I hope we had the right email for you and that you got the email I sent you.
Yes, I got the one for the training.
Yeah, the functional anatomy movement masterclass. That's the one you asked.
Yes.
Right, perfect. Awesome. Welcome back. How was your New Year celebration?
Quiet. For the most part, I stayed through the holidays by myself and just did a lot of meditation. And then in New Year's Day, I met with it started out to be a client, became a friend. And so we do exchange. I give him a massage and he gives me food. He's a farmer. Out in an area, there's a lot of small gentleman farm kind of farmers.
What does he farm?
It's in Applegate, Oregon.
Applegate. No. What does he farm?
Oh,
Applegate was fruit.
Vegetables.
Oh, vegetables. Okay, great.
Vegetables and fruit, and plus he also has a share in some cows, so he gets beef and that kind of stuff.
Nothing like good farmer food. Love it.
Yeah, it's a nice resource to have, especially close by.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely a goal of mine to also create that. So yay, good for you. It's like to driftwood. It's like you're letting me know it's going to be mine soon. So perfect. Thank you for that. Happy New Year.
Yeah, there's so many people coming out now that are having small dairies and everything else where you can get your fresh eggs, fresh milk.
Right. Yes, that's where I get my eggs as well from. I always prefer farmed food, which is a totally different topic. But for those of you who are interested in that, regenerative farming is apparently, where we all get to focus now. And my nephews just turned me on at Christmas time. They just turned me on to a documentary called Kiss the Earth. So if you haven't yet seen that one, I highly recommend it. I had got through about 20 minutes of it before I needed a break. I was like, wow, we get to take this all in and create better food sources for all of us.
Yeah, so, and that's kind of more the trend I'm seeing with people, even the cowboys I used to know and everything. They're going back to self-sustaining farming and regenerative to the earth, where they move things back in there and all their animals. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I would say it's not a trend. It's actually the way it's designed to be, which is, I'm a big fan of that. Like, how are we designed? How's the earth designed? If we could just follow that, whatever source you believe in that created us was wiser than us. So if we just follow that, it gets to be really cool, right? Even with body work and pain and injuries and navigating this vessel that we all call home, when we create that from, or recreate it from a place of the way it's designed, can't go wrong. And that's a big backdrop of the philosophy that I have in the method that I teach. So let's talk about the body today. I could go on about farming and regenerative everything, earthbound living for the rest of our time together, and then I'd miss the mark on what I promised you guys today. So welcome to those of you who are here and not on camera. That's totally okay. You're welcome to be here. You're welcome to come on camera. You're welcome to stay off camera. You're welcome to come off mute. Please do use the chat if you want to communicate with me and you're not visible or if I'm not able to hear you. You are being recorded. So I know you guys got that pop up just so that you know your image and your voice will be captured. And that's so that we can have it all on the YouTube channel for those of us who are with clients right now and we get to watch it on the replay. So welcome. For those of you who are watching on the replay, so glad that you're also here. For those of you who are here live, thank you for connecting and committing to this time for you and your clients that you serve, because every time we invest in ourselves, we develop our own skills so that we can be in better service, which is amazing. That's what we're all here to do. That's what I'm here to do too. If I haven't met you yet, my name is Gina Schatz. I am the developer of the Schatz method, which was something that I created clinically along the way. I've been working clinically for 30 years. And in my first third of that time, I was really looking like you for answers because I was taking a ton of CEs and a ton of continuing education. And most of my clients were getting great results. And most of those great results weren't lasting, or they would return. And that to me didn't feel like success. So I really wanted something that was longer lasting. And just like we were talking about, Charisse, getting to the source of it, like how are we designed? And then working there is where all my answers were. And that is not to say that tools and techniques aren't also super valuable. They absolutely are. I don't teach a whole lot of tools and techniques because my place in service is to take us back to how are we designed? What do we know about that? And how do we get ourselves back there? And my experience is that when I got my clients back to the way they were designed, their pain and discomfort went away. That's what I was here for. So if you're using tools and techniques, amazing. We do need tools and techniques at times to get us back there. And if you're here for something new, I've got that for you too. Every Tuesday throughout this year, I'm committed to being here at noon for you. And the way it works is for about the first 20 to 30 minutes, I'll pour into you about a functional anatomy concept or a viewpoint or a design idea about our body's design. And I'll share that with you for the first, half, if you will, of our time together. And then what really lights me up and what I hope will serve you as well is for you to also then ask questions. So again, if you're going to use the chat to do that, please feel free to do that. If you want to come off mute just to ask your question, that's okay too. But I really find it more valuable for us to interact with each other rather than just you listening to a talking head, which would be me. I could talk till the cows come home. Don't get me wrong. And I'm happy to. And I have a lot of information I want to share with you. And I want it to be targeted to you. Which leads me to a lot of you send me messages after we've met on Tuesdays asking about a particular topic. Totally okay. I love when you send me love letters. And if you have a topic that you want us to cover or that you want me to dive in deeper with you, please let me know and I'll prepare a Tuesday for that. Because there's no set structure. You're not going to be interrupting, if you will. You'll actually be adding if you let me know what it is that would serve you while we're here together. So with that, I'm going to jump into a topic today that it's pretty pervasive. And you may, if you've been training with me for a while, you may have heard me talk about it before. That's cool. It's a good review. And I'm going to bring something new to the table about this same topic that I've not shared before. Sometimes we get to hear it in a different way or in a different context. And that is this concept of tightness, right? So how many of you, and of course, if I can't see you, just raise your hand to yourself, but how many of you have clients who come in and say, boy, this feels tight? Or, oh my gosh, yeah, this feels tight. Same here. Right, exactly. I'm going to guess, even if I can't see you, that 100% of us raised our hand. Clients use the word tight. This feels tight. This is tight. Why is this tight? Can you help me with this tightness? And now my next question is a little more provocative. How many of you as practitioners, whether you're a movement practitioner or a manual practitioner, because we're all here together, I serve both, I am both, and both types of practitioners, I'm asking this question, how many of you have used the word tight when you're working with a client? Boy, this is really tight, or boy, this feels tight for some reason, or this isn't supposed to be this tight, or we need to stretch that because it's tight. How many of you use the word tight when you're talking to clients? It's okay if you raise your hand. Okay, cool. I'm going to guess again, even though I can't see you, that 100% of us have raised our hands. No problem. No problem. Tightness is a word that is pretty common. And it seems like not quite neutral, meaning like there's some meaning to it when we say tight, but it's not offensive in any way. It's not incorrect in any way. It's not alarming, right? We don't ever want to alarm our clients, especially when we're navigating orthopedic work and they're coming in with pain and discomfort. We don't want to add to their stress. That said, I am going to invite you to consider not using the word tight. And here's why. There are 4 different types of tightness that I teach in my mastery training program. And only one of the types of tightness actually requires the type of work we're used to offering for tightness in tissues. Meaning, when we use the word tight, when we experience tightness in tissues for our clients, or when they say that we're tight, how many of you manual practitioners use deep tissue techniques or striation stripping fiber techniques or active or passive stretching techniques to release the tightness? And how many of you movement practitioners do stretching, either active or passive stretching, to alleviate the tightness? Now, again, I'm going to guess that we have like 100% buy-in on this one, that when we hear or experience tightness in tissues that we're working with, we go after it to release and alleviate the tightness. Release, stretch, and alleviate the tightness. It's common for us to do that. But I want to, again, emphasize here that only one of the 4 types of tightness actually responds to that type of intervention. And the same one of the 4 of those types of tightnesses is only benefited by that type of intervention. There's one of the 4 types of tightnesses that type of intervention actually can make it worse in the moment while you're working with your client. And long-term definitely creates functional discrepancies. So when we get into the mastery program, we come in, my practitioners come in, they say the word tightness, and, I kind of nod a little bit. And then right away, we talk about these 4 types of tightness, which I'm going to outline for you today. And we go deep into all 4 of them. And we talk about what actually is the thing that we're feeling that we're calling tight. And then what do you do about it? And once we realize and uncover deeply that the 4 types of tightness are not the same, they don't require the same type of intervention, and the type of intervention that we're used to doing actually could be making it worse, or it just doesn't create results, which is what we're all here for. Shortly after that, we stop using the word tight. We don't even say it anymore. So if you ever interface with any of my mastery practitioners, you'll know that they don't say the word tight. And if they say it, they immediately reframe it. They'll say tight and then reframe it to the type of tightness. Because when we know the type of tightness, it dictates the type of treatment that we'll offer those tight tissues, which then generates the results, right? Okay, so 4 types of tightness. There's contractile tightness, tensile tightness, compensatory tightness, and atrophy. And I'll say them again. Contractile tightness, tensile tightness, compensatory tightness, and atrophy. Now, I have shared this with you guys before. I have been at this rodeo for a long time, and I've heard lots of things. Doesn't mean I have all the answers. In fact, I'm a firm believer that there's none of us on the planet who has all the answers. My gosh, we are literally choosing our body, the human body, as our muse, which is an endless topic. And even all the way back through embryology studies, which I did study in college, even all the way back to the first cells of our makeup, there are just some things that are not explainable, which means there is no one on the planet who can explain all of this, and certainly none of us who knows it all. So I am not coming to you from a place of being a know-it-all. I'm coming to you from a place of I've heard a lot of different ways of understanding this particular topic, and I have my understanding because of the clinical results that I generate. Not because I need to know the right answer. I do need to know the right answer, but it's not that I'm in the know-it-all with the right answer. It's that I have evidence that shows this is what works. Okay, so bear with me for a second. If you've heard some things that are contradictory, no problem. Just jot them down on your paper. Maybe that's what we'll Q&A about when I'm done with my share here. So contractile tightness is when the origin and insertion of a muscle are moving towards each other, the muscle spindles lay on top of each other, and it's the belly of the muscle looks like a deck of cards is the description that I use. So the spindles lay on top of each other. And that's supposed to happen in the lever system based on our design. Again, we want to know the way the body is designed, because if we know the way it's designed, then we'll know if there's a glitch in the matrix of the design and the function, and then we can take it back to the way it's designed and repair all of that. So that's what we're up to here. In contractile tightness, that's when the origin and insertion are moving towards each other, muscle spindles are laying on top of each other, decks in the middle. Cool. It's meant to be that way. In the lever system, one muscle on one side of the lever is contracting like the deck of cards, and the other side is lengthening. And then vice versa. That's the way joints move. Now, let me just pause here and say, if that was all a little bit like oh my gosh, I feel like I'm supposed to remember that, but I don't remember it. Or if it feels like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? I can't even go with you on this tightness conversation because I don't know what the frig you just said. Spindles and origins and levers and what? My loves, my invitation to you, if that's come up for you, is A, congratulations for acknowledging that there's a gap in your knowledge at this point, and do not refrain from doing any type of self beat up. It's not necessary. Not only is it not necessary, it's super not helpful. When we get into this place of self beat up about what we don't know, we actually take ourselves out of the game. We become very self-focused, which I like to say that's our selfishness. And as soon as we get self-focused and selfish, we're no longer in service. So no self beat up. There's no room for it in what you're up to here. And there's no way you're going to know everything about the human body. None of us is. I already said that. And we all get to learn more because we don't know it all yet, right? Including me. What I'm teaching you is what I do know. That's why it sounds like I know it. And if it's new to you, awesome. Mark it down. You get to fill in your knowledge wheelhouse with this information. And I have tons of information for you. There's even free material on my website where you can get this information about origin and insertion, definitely about the lever system. You don't have to pay, go get it. And there's courses for you to take, right? This is the foundation of what I teach. So of course I'm here for you. I will fill in those gaps for you in any way that serves you. That said, in order for us to navigate tightness and the proper technique to alleviate the tightness, we've got to know muscles. We've got to know the anatomy and physiology of a muscle. Otherwise, the type of tightness is a little bit like cart before the horse. Maybe cats become before horses. I don't know. Maybe one of them scares the other. The point is, we got to know the physiology of muscles to be able to navigate what to do about them. We got to know how they're made and how they're designed to notice a glitch in the matrix and then take it back to the way it's designed, right? So if this is the place where you're finding like you're not getting results that you want, great. Maybe we solved it for you already. Just go get that knowledge and you'll know it, and you'll know it, and then you'll implement it. It might also be the place where you are taking yourself out of the game by losing your confidence, because I do know that for a lot of us, when we get results with a client, it feels like an all-time high. Like I remember the first time a client was like, wow, I remember it because I was like, oh my gosh, I did that. Like I am so much in service and I feel so purposeful right now. And oh my gosh, this person's human existence is made better because of my interception with them. And like, oh my God, I get paid for this. This is amazing. That's the most high I feel like we get as service practitioners. And I talk to a lot of you one-on-one, and I know that most of the time, which is unfortunate, that number most is unfortunate. Most of the time, we're not exactly positive how we created that, which means we're not actually fully celebrating. We're kind of backstage, a little like on edge-ish, like, I don't know if I did that. And more importantly, I don't know if I can recreate it. And so our confidence starts to waver a little bit, and that takes us out of the game. Or you do know how you created the results. And this one, you're like, I did it. I followed all my steps. I used all my tools. I did them in order. Boom, there was these amazing results. And then the next client comes in with seemingly the same issue. And you're like, I know what to do. I did this before. Oh, wait, that's not working this time. Oh my gosh, do I even know what I'm doing? Confidence wavers again. We start to get a little uneasy, and then we start to take ourselves out of the game. When that cycle, when either versions of that cycle happen over and over again, that leads to our burnout. That leads to our disenchantment about what we're doing. It leads to our doubt about whether we even are capable or should be doing it. That doesn't work, right? Baseline anatomy really matters. And yes, I know we all came here already licensed and certified in something, and it doesn't mean we had enough anatomy. That's okay. It's not a dig on your school. We all need to know more. I don't think I learned lever system in school. I had to figure it out. So you got to know muscles. You got to know about striations. You got to know about lever systems to be able to navigate tightness. Okay. And that's all the let's call it normal, the common type of tightness, contractile tightness. That's all for that one. And so we got 3 others to go. And that's like they get more complicated as we go on. Okay. The next one being tensile tightness. Tensile tightness is when the origin and insertion move away from each other, which they do naturally. We've talked about that already in the lever system. They move away from each other to allow the opposite side of the lever to contract. Okay, that's just basic functional mechanics. When the origin and insertion move away from each other, the spindles are not stacked like a deck of cards, they're pulled further apart. Okay, nothing's a pulled muscle. This is not an injury per se. It's just the nature of where the striations move and where the origin and insertion are relative to each other. And when they move away from each other, that spindle length, that muscle length with all the spindles in it is taut. And the analogy that I use over and over and over again that super works is it's like a rubber band. When you take a rubber band and you pull on it to get it around a pile of papers, that rubber band is stretched, it's lengthened, and doesn't it feel tight? Yeah, it definitely feels tight. What we don't want to do is release it and stretch it. That would be like, what the heck? That's how you break a rubber band. That's not indicated in muscles when that type of tightness is what's present. Okay, so only the first type is the type that we're used to stripping the fibers, stretching, all the things. The second type, opposite, definitely no, it'll make it worse. You could injure someone. Third type of tightness is compensatory tightness, and that shows up whenever the body is compensating. And sometimes the body compensates for a reason, right? Like if you've had surgery on an ankle or a client has walking on, crutches or a walker or cane or anything, there's compensatory tightness happening in the body in order to allow the body time to heal. Same thing happens in pregnancy. There's compensatory tightness in the erectors in the back along the spine to balance out the weight distribution of the pregnant woman's belly that's forward of the axis. The body's always trying to pull us back to the axis, right? That type of compensatory tightness is needed. For those of you who study with pregnancy massage, you're told, do not release those tight erectors along her spine. What will hold her up? She'll face plant or create a different injury because she's not going to face plant because her body is wise enough to prevent that from happening. Even if you do something silly in her treatment and strip those muscle fibers, no matter if she's begging you because they're tight, do not strip them. What's going to hold her up? Something in her body is going to have to compensate for the lack of compensation that's designed to be there. Okay. The same way when someone's walking on a walker or crutches, for example. And there's a point where we do intercept that type of compensatory tightness, and it's not while it's needed. It's afterward. It's after the healing. It's after the delivery of the baby, etc. There's other types of compensation, though, that happen in the body from poor function. Nobody's pregnant. Nobody's walking on a set of crutches. And there's compensatory tightness in the body in places. That type of tightness needs to be remedied, but not by releasing it at the site of tightness. Why is it there? Is the issue. That's the treatment plan, not stripping the tight muscles and being like, okay, you feel great until the next time you do whatever it is that you were doing functionally that created that type of tightness. That doesn't work. It's not the right treatment. It'll make you seem like you're doing something, and you might even tell yourself that your client needs you, and that's not true. Nobody needs us. But we're here to be in service and to support them in what their body's wisdom is already doing. And then there's atrophy, and this is one of those buzzwords. I was just listening to the radio this morning in the car, and they were listing off the top 10 words or phrases to no longer say in 2023, and I just find these hilarious. So I was listening in. They're like, oh yeah, nobody even says that. Why is that on the list? The media made that one up. Oh, that one's been said since I was in school. Or the, DJs who were admitting, like, I say that. And there is one word on the list that I say, which is awesome. We're not supposed to say awesome, apparently. I say awesome all the time. And I texted my mom this morning and she sent me back a response and said, that's awesome. And I'm like, see, it's a good word. But anyway, I'm making my case. Atrophy is one of those words in our industry that I feel could hit the top 10 list. Like, say it, don't say it. And here's all the reasons why. I get it. And I'm still going to use it as a descriptor because I feel like it gives us a different viewpoint or context to what a muscle's doing, different than the first three that I already talked about. And that's the key. Like, I'm trying to make the distinction between these types of tightnesses so that you know what type of treatment to offer, and it's not all stretching and stripping fibers. So in a muscle that's atrophying, I've heard people say, atrophy is not possible unless it's a pathology. And, you know, we don't get to say that atrophy. Okay, I get it. I've been in those conversations, but here's what I do know. Scientifically proven, the atrophy process begins 24 hours after a muscle's not been used. The atrophy process begins 24 hours after a muscle's not been used. So we're not going to run around and tell people, oh, you have an atrophied muscle. Correct. That's a pathology. We don't get to do that. However, as practitioners coming up with a treatment plan, we want to know what is causing this tightness that I'm no longer going to cause tight. Is it compensatory tightness? Is it contractile? Is it tensile? Or is it that this person chooses the same body position because they sit at a desk for 17 hours a day, and then they get up from that desk and they go and sit down and have dinner. And then their evening habit is also something seated, or maybe even their hobby. Maybe they play cards for their hobby, still seated. Maybe they go to movies on a weekend with their spouse, still seated, right? So what we know is when the lever system is not both sides contracting and both sides lengthening at alternating intervals, that means that that muscle is not contracting or lengthening at regular intervals, which means that in 24 hours of that lever system not creating a joint action, the atrophy process is beginning, which creates tightness, right? Sometimes we'll say, oh, I feel creaky. Oh, I need to have my joints oiled. You know, clients who say this. And what always comes to mind for me is that true or is it atrophy? And so then you get to dig in a little bit deeper, like what's this person's habit? What are they doing? And is atrophy or the beginning of the atrophy process the reason why they feel tight? And if so, what do I do about it? I'll tell you what, if all you're going to do is stretch the person, that's one side of the lever system because the other side's not contracting. So now you haven't really remedied the atrophy process. And if you're going to strip all the fibers that feel tight, who knows if that's what they need? But what we didn't do is teach them how to come back online, which I know is another buzzword that practitioners say, don't use that. Muscles are always online. Well, sure. And what I mean by online is 100%. Like, are they actually doing the cantilevering of the lever? Are they contracting and lengthening to their maximum capacity? Because if that's not happening, there are spindles in that muscle that are beginning to atrophy, and that is a problem. And that creates tightness and discomfort because we're designed to move. We're not designed to be couch potatoes. We're also not designed to be sitting at our desk right now for an all day's activity. A couple hours here and there is okay. So that's what I wanted to share with you about the 4 types of tightness, and to just get our minds around this idea of like, what are we doing when our clients say tight? What's coming to mind for us? What questions are you asking to get deeper into the context with them so that you have an effective plan for their time with you? And if you're using the word tight to talk with them because it's a common word that they understand, great. And I'm inviting you to further explain, what do you mean by that? What type of tightness? There seems to be a lot of clients who come to see me who kind of brag and boast about how much their other practitioners have enforced how, quote, tight they are, as if it's like a badge or something, like a badge of honor. And my question always is, well, what type of tightness and what did you do about it? Because that's not the end of the story. We're not like tight and so then end of story. Tightness is a symptom. So what caused it? And did we get to the cause? In the Schatz method, we always get to the genesis of the problem. Otherwise, you are literally supporting symptoms, which is it's not a bad thing. There's nothing to turn our nose up at that. But if you're looking for permanent results, if you're looking for long-term restored function, you got to get to the genesis of what that is. Otherwise, you're doing Groundhog's Day, rinse and repeat. Symptom, alleviate, symptom, alleviate. So there we are, right at 30 minutes. I did it. 30 minutes of talking, not too fast this time, right, Charisse? Not too fast. And that's my share on tightness. Thank you guys for paying attention. And I'm going to turn the mic over, if you will, to you guys. What questions do you have for me today? How can I support you? What client work are you working on? What anatomy questions do you have? What do you have to add to the conversation around tightness? Any and all of that, I'm open to it. All topics are okay. And if you have a question that's not exactly about tightness, that's okay too. It doesn't have to be on the topic that I shared today. Because I don't tell you guys ahead of time what I'm preparing. Just come on in and sort of riff a little bit. So I would love to support you and answer any of the questions that you have. You guys are welcome to use the chat. Come off mute if you like to, and just ask your question, or bring yourself on camera shortly, quickly. And for those of you who came in right after we started, welcome. Happy to see you. Any questions for me today? I love being on the hot seat. You guys think it's you that's on the hot seat when you ask a question? It's actually me. It's me, to see how quickly I can answer your question and how effectively. Any questions for today? Nothing coming in yet? Okay, no problem. So I want to let you guys know, I'll be here for another minute or two. And if you're typing your question, certainly I'll give you a chance to type. So if you're typing, keep typing. But I want to let you know, again, I'll be here every Tuesday in 2023 for our Practitioner Training Tuesdays. So noon Eastern on Tuesdays is our window. If that's a window of time where you're always seeing clients, no problem. I know some of you send me a note about that. I get it. And finding a universal time that works for everybody is nearly impossible. But we do have them on YouTube. They're streaming live and they're there. So you can watch them on the replay at any time. And if you want to be here live because you want to interact with me and ask a question, those are usually the love letters I get. Go ahead and send me an email. I'll either answer you directly or I'll bring it up and we'll talk about it as a group, because sometimes these questions come in and I'm like, wow, this is a great topic. Sharice, you got one?
Yes, I had a real interesting client a few days ago that had a very unusual anatomy, and it was his normal anatomy. He grew up that way. So he was had lordosis in the upper thoracic area and kyphosis in the lumbar area. And he said, this is the way I grew up. And so it's interesting. I found that I needed to understand this is the way he grew up in the function in order to address the issues that he was having and how to bring that body into balance to what it was used to. Since I just don't see changing the spine and his anatomy. So I'm trying to complement what's going on. And he said it was such an unusual approach because not anybody he's seen are all trying to fix his. I needed to understand this is the way he grew up in the function in order to address the issues that he was having. Where is that coming from? To bring that body into balance to what it was used to. So I just don't see changing the spine and his anatomy. So I'm trying to complement what's going on.
Fascinating.
And he said it was such an unusual approach because not anybody he's.
Okay, I'm not sure what that was, Sharice. Mercury is retrograde. I love Mercury is retrograde. I was like, wait, she's repeating herself. Oh, no, that's exactly what I just heard her say. Okay, cool. I don't know what that was, but hello, I heard you. I heard you loud and clear twice, actually. Thank you for that. So awesome. I know, we just got to roll with it. This is live, so there's no way to, I'm not going to edit it out. It's nothing like that. So Sharice, what's your question for me? It does sound fascinating. All clients are so fascinating, right? The human body is like this endless labyrinth of curiosity for me. What's your question for me?
What would you do? You see something like that. Would you take the same approach as looking to bring their body into balance of what their particular body is used to carrying in balance?
Great question. So great question. When we are working with the body, one of the most valuable in confidence boosting and clarity skills is to know how the body is designed and to hold everybody with the great potential that we're all designed with the same bones, the same muscles. Doesn't mean there aren't exceptions. However, the longer someone's been on the planet, the longer their body has changed function and aborted, optimal function and created habits, and their new normal is not necessarily the way they were designed. So the longer someone's on the planet, the more compelling it would be to believe that this is the way it is, that this is static. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying for all of us, it's very supportive to know exactly how we're designed and to hold the potential that we are all designed that way. Now, are we unique and different? Yes. And we know that even in our DNA, we're 96% the same, right? So we're more alike than we are different. Doesn't mean there aren't exceptions. But if we go with 96% of the time, we're all built the same way, we will have more clarity and ease as we're creating a treatment plan. And it becomes like all the treatment plans almost seem the same, meaning we're taking them back to the same way they were designed. How we get them there might be different person to person, but we're doing the same thing. We have the same end results. We have the same goal in mind, us, even though our clients may state, specifically different goals for them. So with that as my foundation, Charisse, what I would say, and I don't know if you did or not, but what I would say is before I even decide my treatment plan, I'd ask more questions. So when he says, I've been like this since I was little, the questions that come to mind for me are, at what age was that, right? At what age in development did they notice it? Were there x-rays taken at that time? Was there a change or any injuries that came along in his lifetime that might have added to what seems like a reversal, right? And where else in his body is he creating dysfunction? Because here's the thing. What we know about the spine is that there's 4 curves that all balance each other. We look like seahorses, right? So if only 2 of them are distorted, but or reversed, I don't want to say distorted, that sounds like a judgment, but if 2 of them you noticed are reversed, it begs the question, what are happening to the other 2? Because if they're not reversed, the balance is all 4 of them, the way it looks in the books. And so then that would lead me to, then my treatment plan needs to be that. Or if there's something that is a pathology and, it really is that these 2 sections of his vertebra, he came that way, he was born that way, it would lead me to believe that there are muscle changes that go with it. So I need to look at that. And then the body gets to tell me what to do. But I wouldn't just immediately go into, oh, you're just born with that. Okay, well, then I'm just going to go with it, any more than I would with a client who says, I have scoliosis and I was diagnosed with it in elementary school and I still have it. When I treat a client that has scoliosis, I'm still treating them as if I can take them back to 4 balanced curves, because that's what alleviates their discomfort. That's how they're meant to be walking around on the planet. The fact that their body's doing something different and that the nervous system is on board with that is part of the treatment plan. But I know the way we were designed was this. The way the spine is designed is this. So I would really dive into that storyline with my client, if he were my client, and also find out what other types of treatment he had, what worked in the past, and also like, what's he there for? Is he there complaining of pain? Because if he's complaining of pain, I definitely am going to ride that line of, I'm going to get him back to the way I know we're designed. Because this is what I know. When we return the body to the way it was designed, and when we restore function to the way it was designed, which is why we need to know joints, we need to know lever systems, we need to know what muscles are doing that. When we return the body to the way it's designed in both alignment and function, there is no pain. So if my client comes to me with pain and says, oh, I've been like this since I was little, but his goal is to be out of pain, I know I get to take him back to the way we're designed. So what I'm hearing is like, it's been there for a long time, but what I'm not clear on yet with your client is whether or not he actually came out of the womb that way. And if so, what else shows up as a response to that?
Yes, and thank you. I did ask him those questions. And pretty much it was, I was born this way. And I said, well, and then he told me he has an extra lumbar vertebra. And I'm like, what? Yeah, did you have x-rays? And yes, he had x-rays when he's young. They verified it. He's got an extra lumbar in his lower back, down closer to his sacrum. And so, because that I thought was unusual. His sacrum seemed to be the right curve and his neck was, but it's just as the thoracic and the lumbar curves were reversed.
Mhm. Well,
But
it's
he
not.
was just coming in just to get some tension and such relax, and hadn't been to a massage therapist for a while. And he's a contractor. So he's even carrying and lifting loads and doing things. And I thought that was just all really very interesting.
Yeah, super interesting. Well, it's not that unusual to have an extra lumbar. I mean, it's not as common as it is unusual, but it's not unusual because we know that the discs that make up the sacrum fuse. We've talked about that with the segments. You and I have talked about that specifically. So that could be more like what would be my S1 is his L6, right? So that's not that unusual. And still we treat them as if their sacrum's intact. You might even, if you were measuring sacrums, you might find that his sacrum feels slightly bit smaller. It might not show up at all, depending on the size of his bony landmarks. That said, when you just shared with me, you asked him those questions and his answer was, well, I was just born that way. I still heard the same thing twice. I didn't get any clarity. So he had x-rays that shows he has an extra lumbar. Awesome. Did he also have x-rays to show that his curves are exactly reversed?
Yes, that's what we were talking about, was his wanting to know the source of what happened. This happened as what his function is in work or whatever. I'm trying to get to the root of how did this flip around like this? Auto accident,
Okay,
what?
so that's different now. That's different. That something happened or it flipped around from an auto accident means he was not designed that way.
Right, but none of that. That's when it came out he was born this way. Because
Okay.
when he said the first part was, oh, I've been like this since I was very young. And so then I'm asking more questions. Well, how did it get like this? And then it was, no, I was born this way. And then it went into when I started asking, they get film, x-rays or whatever. Oh yeah, and I have an extra vertebra in the lumbar spine. So, I mean, it's just, when they don't come out with everything all at once, you have to keep digging.
Yeah, you do have to keep digging. But what I noticed is that the story kind of bounced around it instead of so this is just the way I ask questions is different. And it sounds like you're direct as well. I was going to say this isn't for everybody, but it is for me because I want results when my clients are with me. So I need information. And some clients are like a little uncomfortable. They're like, you're asking a lot of questions. Like, I don't know. And I have over the years said, look, I get it. It sounds like I'm asking you 50 questions. You've already been to 9 other practitioners. I totally get it. The more you can tell me about your body, the more clear I am about what's actually happening. So I give them understanding about why I'm asking, but I never stop asking until I'm clear. So what's coming up for me is I'm hearing you share, Sharice, is when he said, I was born this way. And now we're on a different topic. His extra lumbar vertebra. Yeah, it's part of the story. It's still on his spine. And I didn't get clarity about those 2 reverse curves, which is what you're asking me about. So the questions I would ask back to him are, okay, great. So you were born this way. Help me understand this. You've been with this your whole life. I've just heard about it in the last 5 minutes. So I need a little bit more data. For example, if your thoracic vertebra are reversed, I know because the ribs attach there that would change your rib cage. Is that true for you? And I would go into everything I know about how the body's designed, and I would checkpoint all of that. Here's why. Not only because I want good results for you in your treatment plan, I want results for me in my treatment plan. But I remember a couple of weeks ago, Sharice, you were here when we talked about the Venn diagram. And there are some parts of the Venn diagram that our clients show up because they haven't been heard, they haven't been served, they didn't fit in, whatever it was that was coming up for them, that they are actually very attached to the parts of them that are different or that seemingly can't be healed. And I'll never forget the first client of mine who taught me this. I care for this client deeply because of the learning that I learned in being this person's practitioner. And when I met this person, I was brand new. I was super new. I like the back of my ears was still green with growing with moss, right? Like brand new little budding little fledgling of a practitioner. But like you, Sharice, I started in orthopedic medicine. And so people were coming to me with orthopedic issues and I liked it. And I was here for it. Like I wasn't intimidated in any way. And I asked a ton of questions, etc. Anyway, in all of that questioning that was starting really early, this client brought me their x-rays to show me this pin that was in his hip from his hip replacement. It was the first time I'd ever seen an x-ray like that. And I asked him a ton of questions. What was the surgery like? What was the pain like? Blah, blah, blah. We went at this for several weeks, like 6 weeks of him coming regularly, lots of the time together talking. It's back in the day when we had more time than we had clients. So, an hour session was actually like an hour and 20, but you only charge for an hour, like those days. And come to find out, this injury, which was so present in the way he was talking and so absolutely his issue and so absolutely the source of his pain and discomfort, was longer in his history than I was years old at the time. And I thought, wait, like, what? It didn't just happen. The surgery wasn't just now. So the point in all of that was, as we were working together and I was letting him know, like, yes, well, that was then. And, now we have this. Oh, and he'd give me all the reasons for his limitations. Sure, I get it. Before you broke your hip or when the injury happened, right. But we took care of that, right? That knot, he'd call them knots, that knot isn't in that muscle anymore. Now we're here. We're at today. Well, yeah, and he'd go back to the surgery. And so what I learned from working with that client was there was an attachment that he had to the injury or the trauma of the injury or being heard or being seen or being different enough. There was something in there for him that was not in my scope of practice, but in my identifying the Venn diagram, I could see that there was only so far we were going to go, because he didn't really want to be in the present, rid of the pain that he had. Now, fascinating. I can't make this up. Just last year, 2022, I got a call from the same client who's now in his middle 80s, right? And he was asking me questions because he has this other symptom that's come up in his body, and he knew that I would be the one to help him get to the source of it. And when I invited him to come in for session, I said, either go to a practitioner that does this, or if you want to come in, I'll do this for you. But I also think that you need this. And I sort of walked him through it. And even last year, he said, well, I remember in the days when you used to do massage and now you don't do that anymore, which, by the way, has been like 2/3 of my career. But when I met him, when I was still green behind the ears, he was laying on the table and I was working my thumbs to the nth degree to try to get things to shift. And that's before I knew that the way our clients move matters. We can't do it all as a manual practitioner. That's not going to resolve all of it if their issue started from a functional problem. And then later in time, when he came to me and I had evolved what I knew, and so therefore evolved my practice, he was kind of pissed off because he didn't want to do the movement. He didn't want to do his part because that would have meant a resolution. So again, I have nothing but affection for this client and all that I learned from him. And there are some clients who are actually attached to whatever the thing is that they're carrying. And we all have a thing. We all have a thing. Even though 96% we're all the same, there's definitely nuances that make us our own, right? Like I'm missing a ligament in my ankle. Who the heck? Why? And it's changed my understanding about the way that limb works and its effect on the sacrum, blah, blah. So I learned from it. And I need something slightly different than you do. But largely, we need the same thing for our sacrum. Largely, like 96% of what we need is the same. And then I have my own little thing, and you have your own little thing. And my philosophy on that is we have a thing so that we're reminded to stay in our body, so that we're not all mental or, off into the ether as a spiritual being that we are living in here. So there's all kinds of ways we can look at why someone's anomaly might be something they're very attached to. And my invitation to you as a practitioner is you get to decide what you want to do with that, Charisse. So do you want to buy into their limitation? Do you want to restore them to the way they're designed? Do you want to be a safe conversation space and then a healthy referral out if you know that what they really need is something else? That's a rhetorical question. We all get to decide that as ourselves, as our own practitioner. But it's striking me that as we're not really getting to the root of the soul storyline here, that there's more to be discovered for you and your client. Does that support you?
Yeah, there perhaps is. I know that our session he was really very satisfied with. But yeah, and you're right, the ribs did change completely. His scapulas were sitting on his back in the normal place, but they were really sticking out because the ribs, everything was different with that lordosis in the upper thoracic. It was very unusual, but I just worked to try and bring his body to some kind of balance that worked with what he had going on. And it seemed to really work for him. And in fact, he went out and right away tried to book me for more treatment, more sessions. So
yeah, awesome. So anytime we have tightness in the body and we alleviate the tightness, there will be a reprieve in our client's symptoms. And for me, when I'm hearing that he has that sensation of tightness along his spine, granted, he's a contractor. I heard you say that. So he could be using those muscles in a way that are fatiguing them or not using them properly. And that could be creating the discomfort. Like we talked about, the lever system might not be active or balanced. And if that's really the way we're designed, there would be no pain or discomfort. So I know to always go back to that. If someone's experiencing pain or discomfort, they're either not aligned the way they're designed or they're not using their body the way they're designed. And I get to figure that out with them and support them in remedying it.
Yeah, and it's probably the latter. He's probably wasn't using his body right because he had just moved and was doing a lot of lifting and carrying. And so he just felt a little achy in the low back area.
Okay, and my invitation to you is the same invitation I give my mastery practitioners, Charisse. Rather than probably, no. Get really freaking clear so that there's no guesswork in what you're doing and what you're offering. And the way
maybe I shouldn't have used probably. It was obvious that he wasn't using those muscles right. He was lifting and probably lifting wrong. Again, probably. Most likely lifting wrong.
Most likely is still not clear. The only way you know for sure that he was lifting incorrectly is to have him show you how he was lifting.
Yeah, that's I only get 60 minutes with the client and that's it. So I've got to make the best with use with the time.
No, I totally get it. When I was working orthopedically, I had 7 minutes per client.
7?
Yeah,
Right.
I saw more than 6 clients per hour, which just meant I got really quick. I just got really quick. So don't use time as the reason to not be thorough. You can be thorough. Just my invitation again is to be clear. Be so clear that you're unwaveringly confident about what's up and what you're doing rather than sort ofing it.
Okay.
Because that's what you're asking me. You want a solution for him, which means you got to know what's up.
Well, yeah. Okay. I'll just get more clarity. I'll work for that. The
good news is, like you said, he's scheduled a few more times. So you get more opportunity to have more conversation with him, more dialogue.
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Well, keep me posted. Let me know how that one goes.
Okay.
You know what you discover. Cool. Love your questions, Charisse. Always rich and juicy. Any other questions from anyone while we're here? All right. Awesome. So again, I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Your monthly newsletters are coming out today or tomorrow. So please look for those in your inbox. If you're not getting the newsletters, send us an email, let us know, and we'll see if we can either update your email address on our end or figure out what's gone wrong. But we have a monthly newsletter that comes out with all of the happenings for the month, and we are starting the year off with a bang. So there's lots of good stuff in there, and I look forward to seeing you guys at our next training. Have a great week. Happy New Year. Bye.